Open letter to America from a member of the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, NGLCC. Dear America, my name is T. White. My pronouns are she, her, miss, boss, mythical being, because I'm a unicorn, rarely seen, but always noticed. I'm known for my bubbly personality, eclectic fashion choices, and quick-witted tongue, a unique combination that springboarded me into my own personal brand, Simply T Poetry LLC, orator, performer, and coach, America. I am your ultimate storyteller. But you tell stories too. Whether fishtail or fable, the world pays homage to your history despite your young age. You have been able to command attention from the most tyrannical of regimes. You grew up so fast. And maybe even too quickly, America, poised and positioned in a place of power, but you lack maturity. Still pained by your previous lifestyle choices, you have birthed a bundle of capitalistic socialists, masked in democracy, but yet I'm the illegitimate child, stripped of my native tongue and rich culture, only to be coerced into a disconnected civilization. Dear America, you, for years, neglected 2/5 of my existence, and today, remnants of your policies linger on unbridled tongues, but you did teach me survival, because I had to learn how to navigate around inhumane legislation, sidestep red line areas, evade prisons to pipeline propositions, all while fighting for my own civil liberties. And I did it. I did it wearing army fatigues for a flag that waves at me like a child, saying goodbye on a school bus window, dear America. I know you are still a child at the head of the table in a booster seat with elders rooted in ancient histories, but I need you. I need you to grow up quicker. The world is changing faster than blinking eyes on Ferris wheels, and this daughter of yours, I won't slow down. I can't slow down. I have surrounded myself with a militia of queer, non-conforming, gender-fluid entrepreneurs eager to change the world. See, we are your pulse, America. Defying odds, despite inequality and equity, you remain happy and colorful and completely in sync. We are united by the rhythm of our heartbeats. We are connected through a sea of industries and talents. We are networked by the NGLCC, dear America. This letter is not a plea for assistance or a cry for help. It is a notice. To notice us, because we are lawmakers, we are lobbyists, we are activists, we are activated, dear America. It is time to put away childish things. You can no longer relish in a feathered past, whining of toxic rhetoric and sucking on your gentrified thumb. I won't allow it. I'm Simply T, doubly poetry, daughter of the late great James A. of the living and given Lisa L. and dear America. I just need you to love me the way I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, T of Simply T Poetry, for those amazing words of truth and encouragement. Your poetry is the perfect way to kick off today's program. We ask for everyone on this call to be sure to join after today's session for our Communities of Colors and Allies networking session with T as she shares her motivation in writing this piece for today's program. Our team will drop the Zoom link for this session in the chat. Well, welcome everyone. We are so glad that you have joined us for NGLCC Black History Month program, Progress, Partnership, and Perseverance, a celebration of Black LGBT entrepreneurs and leaders. My name is Alicia Green. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the Director of Supplier Diversity at NGLCC. My colleague, Sean Franklin, who you will be seeing later in this program, and I are the team leads of the NGLCC Communities of Color Initiative, better known as COCHI. As everyone knows, February is the month we celebrate achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. Even though February is the shortest month of the year, our celebration does not stop in these 28 days. I am so honored to be part of an organization such as NGLCC that has included an initiative for Black and Brown LGBT entrepreneurs to recognize and enhance opportunities for the growth of their businesses. A safe space is what we all need. I am an ally, a Black, heterosexual, cisgender woman working for an LGBT organization. I can recall going to different conferences working in our booth, promoting our LGBT business enterprise certification, and the stares I would get. People walking on the other side of the aisle and whispering amongst each other from people who look just like me, not even knowing me. It sickened me to see the discrimination amongst folks. And I was never sure if it was because I was perceived to be LGBT, because I am Black, or maybe even both. But attending different conferences gave me just a taste of what the LGBT community goes through, especially the minority LGBT entrepreneurs that we get to work with each and every day. Coachy offers a safe space for Black and Brown LGBT entrepreneurs, as they so often are the minority amongst the ethnic and LGBT business communities. It has been such an honor co-leading this initiative as I see our PLC LGBT business owners get more involved in our programs, share with us their struggles, especially during the pandemic, and seeing them overcome and rejoice in their success together. As there is so much negativity has transpired this past year, I am so glad that we've got a great program in store for you all today to highlight the incredible things Black business owners bring to the table. Our conversation today promises to be both enlightening and helpful.
Good afternoon and welcome to this special celebration of Black History Month. I'm Justin Nelson and I'm the co-founder at NGLCC. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm honored to turn today's conversation over to some extraordinary Black leaders, change makers, team members, and champions in the NGLCC community. I look forward to doing what I hope more leaders in positions of privilege will do. Listen, learn, and act intentionally to make things better.
Hello, my name is Veronica Brown, and I am the principal designer of Butterfly Concepts Interiors. Butterfly Concepts Interiors is a full-service interior design company, and we also provide residential staging services for real estate agents and homeowners. Our focus is to bring not only beauty to the home and office, but function to the everyday environment. My intentions for my clients are to save time, money, and eliminate stress to make sure that their space express themselves and have a harmonious feel by incorporating holistic design. It is so important to realize that the places where we live and work support our spiritual growth. For more information, please call Butterfly Concepts Interiors at 919-348-9380, as well as Butterfly Concepts 4U4.com.
Hello, my name is John Sanford, founder and executive consultant to the Retail Support Group. We're a collection of minority professionals working in industries that support the small business owner. Our consultants are professionals in HR, merchandising, web design, customer service, and more. We are proud members of the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. This organization not only helped us connect with other gay, lesbian, and transgender entrepreneurs, but helped us grow. From online training webinar events to in-person and virtual networking, we thank the Chamber of Commerce and happy Black History Month.
Hi, my name is Braxton Fleming. I'm founder and CEO of Stealth Bros & Co. My business is a luxury dot kit company that specializes in hormone replacement therapy dot kits, along with other communities such as diabetes, HIV, IVF mother, the list goes on. It's one of the main reasons why I joined NGLCC was because I wanted to create a family-oriented foundation for my business, and that's exactly what NGLCC has been providing for me. Everyone there is so loving, and they really want to help move your business forward.
Hello, my name is Stephen Key, co-founder Uncommon Coffee Roasters of Saugatuck, Michigan. We've been in business just under 27 years. We started roasting for just our cafe, and we grew the company to roast for over 230 coffee shops, churches, hotels, wherever we can get a good wholesale account. We're very proud to partner with our certification of the NGLCC that has helped our business tremendously. When companies are looking for a good diversity supplier, they call on us. We're very proud to partner with you. Thank you.
Now it's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you our wonderful panelists who will share their stories today. Please join me in welcoming two of our certified LGBT VEs, Kim Adams, owner of The Business Team, and Carlton Brown, owner of Occasional Occasions by Carlton, and our incredible and dynamic moderator, Von Shay Jenkins, who is the Senior Vice President and Global Supplier Diversity and Responsible Sourcing Executive at Bank of America. Welcome, Vanshay, and take it away.
Thanks, Alicia. So, Kim and Carlton, I have been so excited to talk to you. You know, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I definitely have the entrepreneurial spirit, but definitely not the grit and education. Well, I won't say education, but determination to make it happen and see it through. And you both have very successful companies. And so, to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Tell us your story. How did you guys become entrepreneurs? Kim, you.
I'll start with good morning. My name is Kim Adams. My pronouns are she and her. I actually started my entrepreneur journey getting kicked out of corporate America. On both occasions of starting this journey, it's
You're
been
a disruptor.
I am a disruptor. And part of the success of our company is actually disrupting the ineffective practices or the antiquated practices. And the first time we started this journey, it was in New Orleans. After getting invited to leave corporate America, and then Katrina happened. Fast forward to now, getting voluntold to retire from a corporation and wanting to go back into how we can help companies and projects be more sustainable is how we came to be. And we are the business team. We take care of the infrastructure of companies and project startups.
Wow, that's awesome. Carlton, what about
My
you?
story is a little bit different. I never had the desire or interest in becoming an entrepreneur. I thought I was born and raised to be a corporate person. Got out the military, got a degree in computer science, worked for Bell South Southern Bell for 9 years. A friend of mine was having a housewarming. Let me preface this by saying I did not know how to cook. Although my mother was a home economics teacher and my father was a cook in the Marine Corps. Most people would think that I would know how to cook, but those are all the reasons that all I had to do was pull up to the table. So it wasn't until after I grew up and left home, went into the military, that it finally dawned on me that, you know, my lack of cooking skills was a detriment. Good friend of mine, actually my partner at the time, had bought this beautiful home. He was going to have this housewarming. I said, well, what are you going to do for your housewarming? He said, well, I'm going to get some trays from the local grocery store, Kroger's. I said, your bougie ass, excuse my French, but your bougie friends are going to laugh you at the city. I said, let me do your food and you just pay me what it cost me. Had never done anything like this in my life. Didn't know what I was doing, had no clue, but I had 3 months to figure it out. But I knew that I wanted his friends to think that he had hired a caterer. I didn't even really know what a caterer was, but that was my goal. I was sitting at my desk at Bell South. I said, well, I've got to come up with a name. I said, well, I'm not going to do this that often. I'll do the occasional occasion. And that's literally how I came up with a name for the business. When it came time for the party, I created little $10 business cards, decorated the table as best I could, put the cards on the table, and the party was a success. After the party, about 2 weeks later, somebody called and asked, well, how much do you charge for a party of 25 people? I said, well, why are you asking me that question? They said, well, we took your card from Jerry's party. My response was, that card was not meant for you to pick up.
It was part of the decor.
It was part of the decor. I had prefaced it by saying I had also previously enrolled into culinary school because I did not know how to cook. So when this happened, I was already in culinary school, and I said, well, let me bombard.
Was that going to be a hobby or just something to do when you enrolled in culinary school?
Yes, I was in management at Bell South. I had money out the yang yang. And I said, well, I'm gonna go to culinary school and learn how to cook. So I was there, and so when this happened, I started asking them all these questions, and And so I would do a party here and a party there. And eventually I realized that I really enjoyed this much more than I did playing with computers in corporate America. So eventually I made the decision that if it was ever going to do anything, I would have to leave and put all my full attention into it. uh, Having a military background and my father was a retired Marine, I believed in myself that if it didn't work out, I was going to make it work out. I was a cocky so-and-so back then. So I made the leap and sat down with my parents and my partner. I said, well, I'm leaving corporate America. If I end up losing my house, I'm going to move in with one of you. But that didn't happen, and that was 26 years ago. So here we are.
These are amazing stories and amazing journeys. And what I heard from both of you is where you are today wasn't your intention.
Right.
Like, whoa, talk about all the detours. But eventually you found where your passion met your purpose and you're making money off of it. Like, that is the trifecta here. So awesome. And we'll get more into that as we continue our conversation. But before we do that, Kim, I think there's something that we absolutely need to acknowledge, and that's like what happened to us in Texas last week. I'm in Dallas, you're in Houston, worst weather in Texas in over 100 years. I think everybody saw on the news these rolling power outages, 90% of the state lost power. I mean, people were having a hard time. But not only people, but small businesses. So we're still in COVID. We haven't come out of it. And then this happens. So your business has experienced this in Texas. Like, what do businesses do? Like, what did you do? How are you surviving? How did you survive this and are surviving?
Well, the city of Houston is a small business champion. We know this. The Black and brown communities that are unable to afford the mechanics to keep running are impacted differently than the corporations that are here. It is a business city, but if you don't understand the real-time issues and caveats that small businesses are facing, then you're less likely to effectively support them. It also highlights the effects of the interconnected problems which arise in small businesses that large corporations hire a staff to cover. When you are a small business owner, you're wearing every hat in your company. So there is not a department of experts to defer and deflect the problem to. So as a small business, if you are in a position to support or mentor a small business, understand that they're not looking for money to be thrown in their direction all the time. They're looking for the support of how to get through a pandemic, the support of how to sustain functions through an ice storm, through a weather event. So if you bring that talent to an organization such as the NGLCC as a corporate sponsor, that's what you bring to the table at a moment like this. So for me as a small business, my gift is helping my clients support their infrastructure or establish an infrastructure through a pandemic era event. Now, with something on top of that, if you've over the last year built a sustainable infrastructure, an event like this that happens for a week's duration doesn't affect you the same as it would have prior to, having that in place. So if you are a corporate sponsor of organizations like this that support diverse small businesses, bring your experience to the table.
Yes.
Not just your checkbook, although the checkbook is important. I will not discount that. But there are a lot of self-sustaining companies that are not looking for monetary handouts. They're looking for your experience.
Yeah.
Mentor with those companies. That's what would be great here in Houston. And that's one of the things that the city of Houston does. They utilize small businesses so much that the companies they're connected with are helping them get through moments like this?
Well, I love what you said, and Carlton, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on this, but, to your point, the conversations that I've had with diverse businesses this last year has totally changed. It changed from, okay, how are we going to get your business to grow? How are you going to get into other markets? To really recognizing that what we've been through over the past year is really a stress test. Now your business is under pressure.
Correct.
And so what did you learn from that? So we talked a lot, to your point, about infrastructure, business continuity, being able to manage all these risks that, these companies are facing, businesses are facing. And so, yeah, it's really changed the conversation. And, Carlton, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what have you been going through over this last year, especially in this COVID posture?
Well, it has truly been a challenge. Just like my business, just like most businesses, but particularly the hospitality industry, was strongly affected because people eat. People, there's corporate catering, all that disappeared at one fair swoop in March of last year. It hasn't fully or even strongly come back. So a lot of businesses, the challenge has been, what do you do now? And if you had not started preparing for an alternate, trying to make a switch in your industry when you no longer have money coming in, that's a big challenge in itself. You can have the drive and the desire to make something different, but if you have no more income coming in, that's a huge challenge. So back to Kim's point, it was, for me, for my company, it was a true blessing with the corporates. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small business owners that I speak with and spoke with, were only really familiar with the federal grants and the PPP, and that's all they knew. My saving grace was applying for a lot of corporate grants. I mean, all the major corporations were throwing money at us, which was a great big savior for me to be able to support my pivot and really, with the pivot, I don't care who you are, if you're doing a real pivot, you're actually starting a whole new business. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's important for that, to make that successful. And of course, those that relies on dollars and different knowledge, skills that you may not have had before. So the corporates, in particular, if you're a Black-owned business, by God, they've been throwing money at Black-owned businesses.
True.
It's been a hallelujah for me. So I've been very fortunate to have been successful, very successful with corporate grants, but that has helped me, make this transition. And the other really great thing, and Kim had mentioned it as well, was, it's one thing to send the money, which is wonderful, but a lot of these corporations were also doing additional things like giving you true support and coming up with teams that you could partner with to get this knowledge that you wouldn't have, to help you figure out how to maneuver through this maze to get your new phase of business going. So that has been incredibly helpful.
So they've really helped in the pivot. It's like 2020 was the year of the pivot.
Yes.
And some folks were ready for it and some folks were forced to have to do it. And that growth experience really is the gift, I would say. But so I want to turn the conversation from talk about pivot, one pandemic to another crisis that we all went through last year. And that was racial injustice. And everything that we face, Black Lives Matter, all of the deaths that have happened across communities across the US. and this month's Black History Month. So first, I'd love to hear from both of you. Like, what does Black History Month mean to you? And what does it mean to you now in the context of what we continue to go through as a country?
Carlton, I'll let you start that one.
Okay. Well, for me, Black History Month is just a celebration of tenacity, of fortitude, of defying all the odds, all the things that we've done of excellence that a lot of Black folks, Black organizations or whatever have accomplished over the years. So it's a time to celebrate and acknowledge and recognize. The one thing that I see now with all the racial inequalities with that we've had, with the new or the accelerated insurgence of the Black Lives Matter, and the more people that we didn't even know were our allies are showing up in droves, which is great. And I think that with just seeing all this new interest in what we've been fighting for all these years has been, inspirational. And I believe strongly that, with their interest and, that they're opening their eyes to see all these things that they haven't seen before, or that they may have just sort of put on the back burner and didn't see as much of a priority because it wasn't in the limelight. But now that it is, I think Black history is just going to be, it's just a great educational tool, if you will, for these people that really didn't know our story. So for that, I'm really grateful for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk about our story. I've had renewed conversations with folks I've had relationships for years who've gone through this experience, and it's like their eyes were open to the realities of what's been happening for hundreds of years in this country. And I had gotten so many calls of, Fanshaye, we've been friends for a long time, but can I ask you this? Like, have I been so blind to this for this long? Like, could that be? I thought I was so educated, or I thought that, because, I did X, Y, and Z, I could empathize, and I'm realizing that I'm far from it. So the education and the opportunity has been real.
Right, right.
I think part of the same that to me, Black History Month has always been a narrative that was fed to me. I had no idea that my mother participated in movements the way she did. I had no idea that my sisters integrated my elementary school.
Wow.
Excuse me. And so having all that history go on around us, but not connecting to it as the historic event that it was. So I think part of it is the evolution and update of the narrative, that it's not everything that we learned or heard about in the history books that happened 200 years ago. It is an update of the authors that are telling the story, because we realize now the history that we've been living through as we've been doing it. So the narrative has changed with Black Lives Matter, saying, look at all of the milestones we've reached, all the glass ceilings that have been broken during the last 50 or 60 years. Look at the change that was only 60 years ago, and the steps and monuments that have been attained in the last 50 and 60 years. So it changed our narrative of what Black history was, or what Black history is. It stopped becoming a 200-year-old conversation that's repeated to us like a storybook, like a bedtime story. And it's become a more current, up-to-date conversation of, look at the contributions that everybody of some variance is making to the world. It's not just this is what we did. This is what we're continuing to do. And we just want to be recognized for that.
Right. If
I
I
love that you
may
said
add,
that. Yeah.
if I may add there, so with particularly with Black Lives Matter, it's bringing a recognition that hasn't really been there before. And as you spoke of, I want to say that some of your colleagues were shocked that they were not familiar with what was going on. And I think that a lot of people of our allies who look at things from the surface and don't understand, or because they're not in that position, don't put themselves in a position to recognize. And so, a quick story, back in January, it was the week after the insurrection. I had booked myself a single retreat, a single entrepreneurial retreat with myself for my business. Rented a cabin up in the North Georgia mountains. And I was really excited about going to this and spending time for myself. And on the trip up there, I recognized that I was very uncomfortable in realizing where I was going. And it was up in the Georgia mountains, and you had all these, Trump signs all over. And I started getting more and more nervous, particularly after seeing everything, from the Capitol thing. And so as I got closer and closer, I was like, why are my nerves on edge? I was literally looking in every car that passed me to make sure that they weren't paying attention to me. And I was making sure that, particularly as I got closer to getting off the main road to the cabin, that no one was turning and following me. And as I drove by the homes going to the cabin, I would stare in the yards to make sure no one was out in the yard, and notice this big black man driving, And my biggest fear was getting to this cabin and people have seen me and know, okay, there's a single black man up there in that cabin. And I'm there by myself. I mean, and it dawned on me that I shouldn't have to feel this way. And so I wrote this story and I posted it on my Facebook. And I was amazed at the number of people that came back and was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And, it's things that a lot of people take for granted and don't understand what we deal with on a much deeper level. So I think all of this coming out is perfect now.
And I think talk about what we go through every day. I think that the death of George Floyd really put a humanity lens on this. Mm-hmm. Not just we're the other, but this is a human story. Like, this experience is about our humanity. And then when I think about Black History Month, I'm like, we need to get to the point where Black history is American history. It's everybody's history. Right. And when we talk about everybody, and being in this together and having allies and advocates through this story, let's talk about the role that community organizations play. Let's talk about the role that corporations play. Let's talk about the role that partners like NGLCC play in this. What do you think their role is in all of this? Kim, what do you think?
I think in organizations that are celebrating diversity of any kind, be it women, be it people of color, be it religious organizations that are bringing once ostracized or disenfranchised people, communities to the table. If your role is to celebrate that diversity, make certain that the sponsorship that comes into that organization is about celebrating that diversity as well, and truly helping that diversity, that diverse community, have a voice at the table. Again, I am all about connecting, and I say everything that I do is based on being a mom. Everything that I do in this business is based on being a mom. I signed an email to my business group yesterday. I signed it Mama Bear. And so for me, Everything is about helping the next person learn what I have, what I know. My experience as a parent, my job is to cut 5 years of stress off my children's life.
Yeah.
So the things that I went through, the things that I learned, the lessons that I brought through my experience, that's what I should pass on. And as a corporation, if your sponsorship is in supporting this diverse group, then take one of those small companies that's a part of this and bring them along. Look at them as an entity that you're nurturing. Teach them how to get beyond the issues that we're facing today, how to get beyond the issues that we're facing environmentally, the issues that we're facing with diversity, with transitioning. I think we forget how to interact with the generation that we raised. And we raised them to be incredibly innovative people.
Yeah.
And then we silence them when they get into a corporate environment. And that shouldn't be what we do. We should always be nurturing. The cycle of life is your role will always change to support the role that's behind you. So you will start off where you are, you become a teenager to help your siblings, you become a parent to help your children, you become a grandparent to help your children who are now parents. So it's always about the cycle of regeneration, in fact, instead of eliminating a generation and ostracizing another generation. That's a luxury that I have as the sandwich generation. How do I learn from my parents and learn from my kids so that when my kids move into my position, it's easier for them and it's an easier transition for us as a team.
I love that, because you guys are both acutely well positioned to talk about that evolution, both coming from corporate America and then now owning your own businesses. And like, Carlton, what do you think? Like,
Well, I think a point was made earlier was the bringing a voice to the table. I think that's extremely important. That's a great opportunity for like the NGLCC and even for the local chapters. Government has run things the way they've run, and it's hard to make changes. And a lot of time it's they do, because they've done things the same way, they don't know what they don't know. So you need a new voice, you need a new outlook for them to see what's really going on, in our communities. I know here in Atlanta, our local chapter of the NGLCC is called Out Georgia Business Alliance. And they are very active with the local government and have, acquired a seat at the mayor's table. And that may not be the proper term, but they're on the committee or the board or whatever to help make decisions with the mayor. And so bringing the awareness of what's really going on in our community, how to overcome some situations, what are you doing wrong? What could you be doing better? Having that voice and that outlook can be powerful.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it starts from the local government, and hopefully, it'll grow into, coming from the top down. But if we can start it from the bottom and help build it up and meet in the middle, eventually we'll have a great thing. But I think it just has a lot to do with, and particularly taking advantage, if you will, of the current situations, the current climate, with all the great movements that are going on, and to educate, these decision makers, you really need to look at this, and this is why you need to look at this. So, yeah.
Okay, you both said something that really excited me, and that was a seat at the table. So, Kim, the city of Houston is on the verge of acknowledging LGBT certification as a diverse-owned business. I'm so excited about that. So what would this mean to you and other soon-to-be certified LGBT businesses in the community. Like that's huge. What does that mean?
That, first of all, yay.
Yay, yes.
That is huge. It's huge because I remember being that sandwich generation. I remember having to hide who I was. I remember walking into my jobs and thinking, I can't ever let people know who I'm dating or talk about my weekend. And again, I cannot commend the city of Houston for its diversity and for its attraction for diversity and its expectation for that. And I certainly cannot let the moment pass to acknowledge the impact our local chamber has had. And Tammy Wallace is one of the catalysts for the chamber here in Houston. I never would have imagined that my business would be where it is had she not given my company the opportunity to work with different organizations that interact with the chamber. So the city of Houston allowing us to have a seat at the table and a voice in the conversation that she has certainly paved the way for, that the chamber here has paved the way for, that the chamber in Atlanta has paved the way for, means that the city recognizes there is a community here that needs to be served, that needs to be serviced, and they are listening to authentic voices to figure out how that support needs to be in place, not to service that community and exclude others, but to service the specific needs of that community and not ignore them. So the voice at the conversation at the table changes when you include an authentic input or authentic contribution of what the real-time issues are.
Right.
And so much happens at the local level, at the city level. I mean, that's where we see the big change. But Carlton, we're now going into the next 4 years with a new administration that's going to be very different than the last administration. So, Nick, like, what do you think the role of the new administration should be in, the inclusion of LGBT business owners as diverse businesses in the federal government? Like, what could this administration do to move us forward here?
Well, I think the first thing is calming the fears of people who are ignorant. And I think Biden is doing a great job by creating his version of "We Are the World." With his
Right?
You did just date
I just
yourself
heard
with
the
that
song.
reference, I want to
Yeah, did
say.
you just hear the song? Like, I was just about to sing it.
He is doing an incredible job of bringing in and highlighting the diversity behind a lot of these people that he's bringing to the forefront. So I think that in itself, opens up a new conversation for a lot of people, and eventually, I think. It's that trickle down effect. I mean, if you see it, you hopefully buy into it, you understand it a little bit more, you try to learn, you try to educate yourself. And but yeah, bringing LGBT diverse businesses into the fold will be huge. And I think just the little steps that they're making will eventually, I mean, the big government can only do so much.
That's true.
And it still boils down to the little, but I think, if the local government sees, some of these larger moves or attempts that the federal is making, it sort of gives them, permission, if you will, or at least something to think about, well, let's try it this way, or let's try to do that. Not that they're, mimicking by any means, but it definitely opens up the conversation. And then once again, if you have someone at the seat of the table, then they can help open up those conversations, and hopefully provide more opportunity, with the diversity. I mean, we have the a lot of the, with the supplier diversities, they, do a lot with diverse companies as far as minority owned. You don't really have as many reaching out, to seek out LGBT owned, or even veteran owned for that matter. So bringing more, recognition to that, or whatnot, I think it's a positive, thing that will happen over time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of recognition and acknowledgement, I kind of want to get back to both of your businesses and really talk about, like, what's next for you and your businesses? Like, what does the next few years hold, or next 5 years hold, for you? And
I am very happy to say that we are growing faster than we anticipated that happening this year. I think it has to do a lot with the pivots that people are making. That is the word of 2020. Like you said, 2020 is the year of the pivot. And so our goals right now are to, as we are seemingly coming out of obscurity, the nerds in the back of the room have a voice, and we are trying to bring that change. The retired, I'm happy to say that I'm 53 years old, so I am at that retired age of experience. I don't necessarily want to be at the table all the time, but when I come to the table, this is what I have to say that's going to be for the betterment of the project. And so as more projects are starting up now in 2021, with the optimism of success, we would love to be part of those conversations. In the support services that we provide, they build the infrastructure of companies and corporations. So at Project Startup, we would love to be a part of that conversation so that you can start a more sustainable, more cost-effective, more financially effective project than what we've done. I think that this is the speed bump that we face. Imagine being that generation that saw 2 or 3 or 4 cars in your neighborhood or city, and now they're everywhere. I think this is the technology speed bump, where we had occasional video calls or occasional online or technologically virtual environments. And so now that's going to be the norm. And so I think that's, that's where we are right now.
I've never heard it positioned that way, so I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
The technology speed bump. Oh, that's it for me.
This is the technology speed bump. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
If I hear that on CNN, I will always say thank you for it.
I'll give you a shout out for it. I'll give you a shout out for that. Carlton, what about you? Goals, my friend. What are your goals?
Well, one of the lessons, the biggest lesson that I learned through COVID and, having to do with the pivot, that a lot of businesses has their main line of business. I have always been one to diversify my business, if you will, with having more than one type of income opportunity. And of course, you want it to make sense with whatever your industry is. I'll never forget one day I saw this sign on the street in this storefront. It said wings and cell phones. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Okay, you don't want to go that obscure. But for me, the pivot was having to, realizing that, 95, 95% of my business was purely focused on full service catering. And that came to a stop. I had to make some decisions. So with my pivot, I created another line that's still culinary related. It's my Bon Appetit Y'all brand, which is a gourmet condiments, and we sell that nationally online. And it's also a subscription program. But that was the importance that I learned out of this is never again will I be in a position that I'm just doing one primary thing for my business, because that really caught me with my pants down, and I had on red underwear that day. So it's it's all about looking at how you can structure your business to where when these times come again, because they will come again. And this is the first time we've been hit, slap upside the head. But there was a learning lesson. I will never allow this to happen to my business again. So I've got to make decisions to overcome that. So it's a challenge, but I think if people look at it from that perspective, how can they position their business so that they're not caught again like this. So that was my biggest lesson. So that's my goal is to, number one, strengthen this new line of business, still keep my catering, for when that does come back. But it's going to be really operating 2 to 3 different in almost independent businesses under the same umbrella. So those are my goals.
Mm-hmm.
We were, I will definitely piggyback on diversifying your services. We were initially starting to support business travelers and providing support for so many international projects. We understood the problems that people faced when they were trying to do business on the road. So our initial intent coming into 2020 was we will help business travelers starting out in Houston and then expanding to the state of Texas, business travelers that are going between here and Dallas and San Antonio, because there's so much interconnected business here within the state. And in fact, one of our corporate targets has been Von Lane. I'm going to throw that out there. If anybody next Von Lane, please give the business team a call. You can reach us at businessteamhouston.com. But we started off under the idea of helping business travelers, and now we are helping smaller companies or single solopreneurs sustain their businesses. It gave us a good, we would always say that we were filling the gaps for people, not really being able to hone in on what our skill set should be or what our packaged set should be that we sold. And we just realized we're selling our experience, and we're okay with that. That's exactly what we fill the gaps. But in addition to business travelers, there are businesses that are wearing all of those hats, and now they're at a point of wanting to delegate. So if we can do so many things, we can do one thing for this company, one thing different for that company, and it still creates the versatility that we want, the diversity that we want to keep within our realm of experience, but still under the umbrella of business support services.
Yeah, that's awesome. This conversation with you both has been such a joy and so much fun and so enlightening. And you guys carry with you so much wisdom and experience. So let me ask you this. If you had a business sitting in front of you right now, so you're not talking to me, you're talking to a business who really needs that one thing of advice, that the wisdom to keep them moving forward, what would you say to them?
For me, I would say that probably one of the 2 different lessons that were the biggest lessons for me to learn. When I first started my business, as I mentioned, I started from the ground, had no idea what catering was. Wasn't even sure that I had ever attended a catering event before because I didn't know what catering was. Um, but I decided to launch out into this. I knew zero people in the industry. I didn't know another caterer. So I'm literally from the ground up trying to do this thing myself. And talked to my best friend, and I was, saying my biggest challenge is I don't know what I'm doing. He says, well, trust me, you're doing a good job. You're making decisions based on how you think this should be done. And that was a great asset to me in the long run. The way I designed my business was how I felt it should be done because I didn't have anybody to compare it to. But the biggest lesson was to network and to meet people, to try to build relationships. Building relationships was the most important thing because number one, starting a business, you honestly don't know what you don't know. And when I have new fledgling caterers, coming at the box that are trying to start their company up, and we, run into each other in a meeting, I'm always, wanting to help, a young caterer get off the ground. But when you start talking to them, you realize, oh my God, you have no clue of the money that you're leaving on the table. But they don't understand because they don't know what they don't know. So when you make those type of relationships, that can be huge in gaining the knowledge and to get to the next step. That's the biggest, that I would say that would be the biggest advice that I would give, is get out and talk and meet people and build relationships. That is huge. Hell, with NGLCC, the relationships that I have built with NGLCC has got me here to the table.
Right.
So it's extremely important in any business.
Relationships, and authentic relationships at that.
Authentic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to connect with people who genuinely want to have you at the table.
Yes.
If you're fighting to get there, but you're not allowed to have a voice, you're still not at the table. So you have to be in the room with people who are not only the people that want you at the table, but they're the people that are ready to have an authentic conversation. We're very lucky to have gone through a program at U of H called the SURE program. And the SURE program does just that. They connect not only corporate sponsors, they connect the business school master's students with entrepreneurs who don't have that background. And so you have a collective team that is contributing to the success of this business. Talk about hands-on. You can't get better than that. So you're bringing this master's level education to a real world business that's getting ready to start, with the support of everything and everyone who's connected to the University of Houston. Everything that you can possibly want to ask, you're okay having that conversation. You're expected to have those conversations. They then evolve that into something called the Fellows Program. And what we do as fellows is these graduates that come from the SURE program, the fellows connect with them and say, okay, beyond the first 3 years of business where you're no longer a startup, these are the things that you're going to face. These are the things that can help improve where you are. And there's a partnership that's built. So, as Carlton talked about, those relationships and those genuine, authentic partnerships that you create along the way are going to be what teaches you the best lessons, gives you the best advice. If you have a team around you that only says, yes, you're doing the right thing, you have the wrong team around you.
Right.
You want to have a team that can poke holes in your plan while still supporting your plan. You're on the same page, but you're noticing the leak on the far side of the ship because that's where your expertise is. You're on the same travel journey, but you're noticing the crack that's in the ceiling on the south side of the building because that's where your expertise is. And then you all come to the collective table and have a conversation about where these spots can be filled in. I told you that we specialize in filling gaps. So those are all my analogies.
Well, I love building authentic relationships. Businesses need to get in the building, get in the room, get to the table, and then sit down. And they can use authentic relationships to do that. So, I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours, but we can't. So I want to thank you both for having this conversation with me. And I also want to thank NGLCC for bringing us together. It's been a pleasure and a joy. And here's to great success in 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Bank of America for being here, for being in the room, for listening to us. Thank you so much for Carlton and everything that you do with Occasional Occasions. You know how much I love what you do for a living.
Thank you. This has been incredible, guys. This has been I've been looking forward to this, and this is not disappointing. And Kim, I'll be calling you because we're going to be new besties.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Hello, my name is Carlton Brown, and I am the chef and owner of Bon Appetit, y'all, and Pantry Picks. Bon Appetit, y'all, is our national line of gourmet condiments featuring our sassy sauces, seasoning sweets and savories, like our gourmet ketchups, our creative jams and jellies, our kick-ass signature barbecue sauces, and our dynamic seasonings. Bon Appetit, y'all, will help you elevate your meals from ordinary to extraordinary while encouraging you to play with your food. Visit us at shopyourpantry.com. Now, I have been a certified LGBT company for over 7 years, and the biggest benefit that I find is the exposure and the doors that have been opened. Some of the largest corporate clients that I have been a direct result of the relationships and the certification through the NGLCC. If you are not certified, I encourage you to look into it seriously. The benefits are phenomenal. I'm Carlton Brown, and until next time, bon appetit, y'all.
Hello, my name is Zaylor Stout. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the founder of both Zaylor Stout & Associates, as well as Inflection Point Media. Zaylor Stout & Associates is a labor and employment law firm with locations in both Minneapolis, Minnesota, as well as Pasadena, California. We represent employers in areas of discrimination, sexual harassment, wrongful termination, as well as wage and hour. Now, through Inflection Point Media is where I published my first book, Our Gay History in 50 States, which highlights significant people, places, and queer facts on a state-by-state basis. All of my speaking engagements relating to LGBT history and the book are done through Inflection Point Media. Now, certification to me means access. Access to municipal contracts through my law firm, and access to corporations who've been able to sponsor my book and help get them into the hands of LGBT kids across the country. Access to doors I normally wouldn't have had access to. So thank you so much, NGLCC, for providing that access to not only me, but also other certified LGBT-owned businesses. Thank you.
My name is Christy Ramsey, she, her, hers, and I am the owner of Content Maven Media. Content Maven Media is a relationship marketing firm. We help businesses reach their marketing goals by strategically building relationships with those people that matter the most, the customer. Not only do we offer marketing help, we also offer photography, videography, and graphic design services that complement the marketing help that we give. Some of the benefits of being a part of the NGLCC, the one that I am most partial to would be the benefit of networking. Being a strong believer in relationships, I know that networking can take you a long, long way, and those relationships that you build through networking could definitely make or break your business. Thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to working with you.
Good afternoon. I hope you're enjoying our Black History Month program so far. My name is Sean Franklin, and I am the manager of the Stakeholder Engagement Center for NGLCC and co-team lead for the Communities of Color Initiative, better known as COCHI. Kochi is a place where our minority LGBTs can have their voices heard and brings business leaders from a range of industries and backgrounds to work together, share best practices, and foster success. Let's face it, 2020 put long-standing conversations around racial bias and discrimination at the forefront. From the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and countless others, to the Black Lives Matter movement, peaceful protests for equality, and more. The division in this country proves that a change is needed. Being a Black gay man sometimes automatically gives me 2 strikes when I walk through a door. I can't tell you how many times I've had to reprove myself just because of who I am, who I love, and how I look. With a committee like Kochi, our Black and Brown LGBTE community has the opportunity to prove their worth, to show that they're not just a box to check, and become the go-to businesses to make a huge impact on our country and its economy. And programs like today's are just the beginning of what's to come for Kochi and our amazing LGBT-owned businesses. So moving on in today's program, our next panel consists of incredible NGLCC corporate partners who will tell us their stories about why diversity, equity, and inclusion are important no matter what your background is. Join me in welcoming today's fantastic panelists, Teresa Harrison, Director of Environmental Governance Services at EY, Tanya Nixon, Manager of Impact Spending at Kaiser Permanente, Brian Hall, Manager of Supply Diversity and Brand Advocacy and Small Business Liaison Officer at Shell. And now let me proudly introduce one of our amazing certified LGBTBE moderator, Aaron Walton, who is the co-founder and CEO of Walton Isaacson. Aaron, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean, for that introduction. I am so excited to be here today to celebrate Black History Month with NGLCC Communities of Color Initiative. We've got 4 Ps: the program, progress, partnership, and perseverance. This is a celebration of Black LGBT entrepreneurship and leadership. And when you see our panelists, you will understand why I'm so excited. So let's jump right into it. We've got some incredible panelists: Teresa Harrison, Tanya Nixon, and Brian BK Hall, which he's going to tell us what BK stands for at some point during the conversation. But let's jump right into it, because I had a question for the entire panelists, and why don't we start with you, Tanya? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey that you took kind of obtaining your role in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Sure. Thank you, Aaron. It's a journey that started when I was 6. I was born a rich white girl. No, I'm kidding. No, that's not. No, that's not. No, that's not it. That's not what happened. No, but really it did start when I was 6. Born and raised in Philadelphia. And for lack of a better phrase, it was everything. It was either you were either Black or you were white. As a teenager, we moved to New Mexico. My family moved to New Mexico. And I didn't know my journey was beginning. It actually made me think about it as we're talking about this. And so moving to New Mexico really was my first introduction to a Hispanic population, Native American population. And I'm going to fast forward through this story because I'm really old. At 18, I got married and moved to England. So again, lots of change and cultural change in a very short period of time. And so again, fast forwarding to moving here to California, and then introduction into the LGBT community. So I would say it's really been a progression since I've been 6 years old, through decades of years, still growing and learning. But my first real job, I would say, in diversity was via Seagate. I was an employment law paralegal, and was asked to, so there's something about me I don't know most folks knew. That's my background, legal, and was asked to start a diversity initiative just for like ERGs. So that was my first introduction 20 plus years ago. And I would still say I'm on that journey, but those were sort of milestones, just to tell you a little bit about myself, and how, we never stop learning. Hopefully we never stop growing. And I thought it was, one of the worst things my parents ever did, moving me at 14 out of my urban neighborhood in Philly to Belen, New Mexico, with 5 people, and taking a school bus, to school. But yeah, it's been a great transformation, and I have to say, one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So thank you, Aaron.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. BK Hall. First of all, tell us what BK stands for, if you can say it online, and if not, then that's fine, we'll let it go. But tell us a little bit about your journey. And just for the audience's sake, I met Brian at an NGLCC conference. Gosh, I think it was in Palm Springs. It was years and years ago, and I was just fascinated with what he had accomplished, and the fact that you've been at Shell for almost 29 years. It's amazing. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about your journey and what you've been able to accomplish.
Well, Aaron, thank you, and it is cool to see you. I see you from afar on the social media side, and I see you all over the world, and to be able to just be in the Zoom room with you is pretty cool. BK, that's a nickname I got in college because my first name is Brian and my middle name is Keith. It's that pretty simple. I thought it was because I went to Burger King all the time, but no, BK has stuck, and I like it. So Brian BK Hall is how I tend to refer to myself outside of work. Thank you, Tanya, for that journey that you shared, because when I thought about the question, I went, oh, well, 10 years ago, I got offered a role at Shell to come out of the commercial side of the business and go into this space called diversity and inclusion, and bring the commercial mindset to it. And I remember in that part of my journey, so about 10, 11 years ago, that there were probably a few years before that where some of my colleagues who were in this space would invite me every once in a while to come to a luncheon or a gala, or at the NAACP or with UNCF or with other organizations, and I was kind of a seat filler, but I was, I found purpose in that, because I remember looking in this room and going, wow, Shell spends money on this stuff, and someone like me can come and be in the room. And so it was really a moment of professional connection that happened about 10 to 11 years ago. But if I'll quickly go back and really take advantage of what Tanya started, is that, I grew up in Colorado, born in Colorado Springs, grew up in Denver, close to Cherry Creek. If anyone knows where that is in the city of Denver, it's one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the city, I do believe. And we were right on the edge of it, and I mean the edge of it. But I just remember, when I think about it, my mom, she had a ton of friends that were, Black families that we went to school with, but she also had a few friends that happened to be white that were just, she lit up when she got a chance to engage with them, because they did other things that she didn't get a chance to do a lot of until she was with them. And so when I think back to that, I remember some of her best friends happened to be white, even though we were, we grew up predominantly. I was one of 5 boys, twins, the youngest, and so that was our network, was our close friends and our neighborhood. But I do remember my mom kind of connecting to that. Let me fast forward to going to college. Started at Texas A&M, which, if anyone knows anything about Texas A&M and its history and its current situation, it's not a very diverse university. It's an awesome university. It's a great place to spend time, but you stick out if you're dark complected there. And then I moved over to Sam Houston State, and I'll tell you the story that I think about when I think about diversity is that I never thought I'd be a part of a fraternity, and I decided to start my own, because I was friends with Phi Beta Sigma and the Kappas and others, but I just didn't feel that desire to join, I wanted to start, and I ended up starting a chapter of Theta Chi, which is a predominantly white fraternity. And I remember doing that because many of my friends that I played sports with and intramurals and hung around with, we were all different, but we didn't feel like we fit into one bucket. And so, thankfully, so I've been a member of Theta Chi fraternity. It's changed my life. And we recently had an alumni event on Zoom on Sunday where we talked about diversity. And that's been 20 something, 30 something years ago. And so when I think about my journey on diversity, um, it's probably been since those early days when my friends were my friends and I didn't really subscribe to, you know, picking or choosing. It was really who I felt comfortable with and who I wanted to hang around with. So bringing that into the Shell culture, clearly, I've worked in various roles inside Shell when I reflect that weren't very diverse and probably aren't still diverse today. And so my role now as a professional, I think, has come to the spot where I can bring all of that experience together and say, let's don't force diversity, equity, and inclusion because it's a have to. Let's realize that some of our best moments have probably been when we didn't react to someone because of their color or because of their what they believe in, that we reacted to who they were as a person. And I think the more we can bring that into our professional space, I think I'm pretty fortunate to be able to have the kind of the path that I've had to date. So that's my journey, and now 10 years into it as a professional.
That's awesome. And I want to come back to some of the challenges after we talk to Teresa, which, by the way, I got the Jackie Robinson Award because my fraternity was Theta Chi at Batson College. So we're fraternity brothers. There you go. Another thing that NGLCC brings people together over. How funny is that?
That made my day. That is awesome. Thank you. Oh my God.
That's great. Let's talk to Teresa Harrison. Teresa, first of all, I love what the website for EV talks about, which is, I'm going to paraphrase, but you can probably correct me. It's really about the fact that diversity and inclusion is not a nice to have. It is a business mandatory. And I think, people like you who have dedicated themselves to this really do help our clients, our companies understand that business priority. But tell us a little bit about your journey, and I'd love to also hear about some of the challenges that you faced as a Black professional and as a Black LGBT professional, which adds another element to the challenges that you might face.
Yeah, so, my family is built on the foundation of entrepreneurs and also civil rights activists. And so my grandfather owned grocery stores, funeral homes, ambulance services. My father was very active in the civil rights, my uncle, civil rights. And so I've always been an advocate. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be an attorney because I was always arguing my case to my mother and father and to whomever would listen about why I was right and not getting in trouble. And then fast forward, my father worked for a kind of a minority-owned firm, an acquisition firm, and I went there and started building their community development program for minority-owned businesses. So it was an acquisition firm for funeral homes. So we had several funeral homes all across the country. And so I was setting up pretty much their development programs for their kind of public relations or overall their giving back, creating aftercare programs. So after families had lost loved ones, building on a program, libraries to help them get through the grief process. And I saw an ad in the Houston Chronicle for a job at Supplier Diversity for Baker Hughes. It's an oil field services company. So kind of tied NGLCC, bring us all back again. Brian from Shell used to be my customer. And I asked my dad, I said, I think I can do this. I think I can do this role. And so went, had the interview. They had basically really interviewed me. It happens to be that the HR rep was a really good friend of one of my dad's friends that worked with him. And I got the interview, did the interview. They had basically already really given it to someone else. But after I did the interview, the rest of the team, it was in front of five, it was a panel of 5 people, talked about the different aspects. Fast forward, I got the role and had a great ride at Baker Hughes, and then got recruited here for EY for my role. So I say all that to say that I wanted to advocate on behalf of clients to build their case in a law, you know, in kind of in a courtroom, but now I'm advocating on behalf of diverse and small businesses every day and within my organization and across the globe. So I'm still having that advocacy and fighting for rights. It's just in a different courtroom. It's in the corporate boardrooms. So it's been a journey. You know, one of the things that I think we all find as Black professionals, Black LGBT professionals, is usually you're the only one in the room, and particularly being a Black female, usually double kind of only one in the room. And so it's been some challenges from perspective of really being able to state my case and show that I do belong in the room, and showing that validity of why I deserve a seat at that table and why I'm at that table. And usually one of the highest ranking people at that table now. So it's been a great way to advocate for those businesses, but also advocate for other Black professionals in the room to bring them up to that table too. So I always say that it's not good enough for us to be at the table. There should be somebody else with us. And so how we're championing that in our own, not only for suppliers, but other professionals that we work with, so that everybody is around that table having a, you know what, if they're not on the table, they say you're on the menu. And so I'm keeping everybody around the table, so we're not a part of the menu.
That's great. I appreciate what you say. I often tell folks, you know, often I go into meetings and I feel like I'm the only chip in the cookie. And it is nice when you see other people who look like you, who share your values. And by the way, there are going to be other people in the room, right, that might not be exactly like you, but are
Correct.
passionate about what you are doing, and that's great too. So that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tanya, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, your work at Kaiser. First of all, congratulations for helping, you know, to get them to the $1 billion roundtable. I guess you were part of that team that really helped kind of get that work done. Tell us how difficult that was to, because the spending wasn't there prior to you, right, supporting it, or prior to you being part of the team. I realize it was a team effort, but help us understand what that process was like, because they went from $1.5 million spend in, I think it was like 2012 to over $1 in 2015. That's a pretty big jump.
You know, I can tell you it started with, well, now I'm going to put a shameless plug, 2020, where 2.8 billion. So, but where it started, honestly, was with a fearless, for me, with a fearless leader, Bernard Tyson. I can tell you, I was at PG&E before I came to Kaiser Permanente, and he was one of the compelling reasons. I heard him speak, and I thought, wow, that's a person I want to have the privilege to work for and work with. And so when I joined the team, part of the goal was, it came, I think, a year afterwards, and he gave us 5 years to actually meet the goal, and the team met the goal within 3. But I have to say, Aaron, it was, and to your point, yes, there was a whole team of us, but when you have that leadership at the top, when you have that leadership that walks the talk, when you have that leadership that will stand up in a room full of people, and still tout that, he was a very personable and humble person, in my opinion. I remember reaching certain milestones, or when I would see him on television, and just send an email saying, wow, I'm so proud to work for Kaiser Permanente. Bernard, I saw you on TV. He, within minutes, he would respond back, I'm part of a village. This is not me. It's all you. And so he always made us feel like, you know, that he was our CEO, right? And we knew that he had our back, right? And he made it very clear. There was a time when I was an interim director before when one of our leaders left. And so I was in charge of the monthly reports and things like that, talking about diversity and, thanking sourcing for doing, for helping us reach this milestone, or when we had this award. And he sent word back to me via one of my mentors um, that my emails were too nice and too fluffy. That why was I thanking everyone? That was their job. They came there to do their job, and that was his expectation. So I needed to tone down all my accolades and happy faces because that was their job and that was his expectation.
Well, I mean, that's pretty intense. Look, you are the type of person that wants to acknowledge, people in general. So that's great. I'm not sure I wouldn't take that away, but I love the idea that, that's why we're here. I mean, it gives purpose. It gives a meaning to what it is that we're supposed to be doing, and helps people understand. One of my favorite books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And it really helps people understand the power that can have. Brian, I want to ask you, and actually I want to ask all the panelists, but we'll start with you. We're at a very interesting moment in our history as Black Americans. And I would love to get your perspective on how you see a way forward, given the focus on Black equity and addressing systemic racism. I'm sure we've all experienced it in some form or fashion, some of it overt, some of it not so overt. But we're going through a transition right now. And I'd love to get your thoughts on how that is impacting your life, your work, the company.
It's a deep question, and one that I think has to be asked how do I say, it has to be asked more often, and we have to stand, I think, still to allow the conversation to happen, which is not an answer, but a conversation. And so three things. One, for me personally, a reflection is one of the drivers that I've felt over the last year, because I told you about how I felt my journey into diversity, started with my mom, in a sense, feeling like my mom, my grandmother, my family, my network was just my network, and it included people of different backgrounds. But as we get to where we are today, I reflect on moments where that may not have been the case. I was happy-go-lucky because I just chose to just walk on air, if you will. But for me personally, I remember moments where, yeah, I was the only one in the room. And probably because I'm a jovial joker kind of guy, I made light of it versus really felt the pressure of it. And I think that helped me get through probably more moments that probably would have affected me even grander if I would have, been in that moment. But in reflection, real quickly, I'll say that over the last year, as a supplier diversity, small business diversity advocate leader here in Shell, taking on the responsibility of our global leadership, saying, let's go do this right. Let's figure it out. Let's bring equity into the office space. Let's first identify systemic issues. Let's talk about them, and let's do our part to erase them, right? To do that as a Black male inside an energy company, or feel like that was my job, I was sitting there going, wait a minute, no, someone else should be doing this and I should be benefiting from it versus taking on the work. Well, when I reflected on one point in my career where I walked into an office where I was the customer service rep for this company for about 3 years, never met them, but then I took over their account as the sales manager. And I was one of 3 Black sales folks in Shell Chemicals. And my mentor at the time said, don't worry about it. You deserve to go into any room you want to. You just need to do what it takes to stay in that room. And I remember going to my first customer in Chicago, and he comes out of his office and he comes in, and he goes to meet the guy, Brian from Shell, and he goes to this white guy that was sitting in the lobby. And the guy goes, nope. And I go, hey, I'm Brian. And he looks at me and he literally said this probably 5 times. You're black.
No.
You're black. And that was one reflection. There's many more that had me in 2020 really kind of almost feeling a little suppressed and depressed, because I said these were moments that I lived through that I didn't recognize at the moment, that it was really not about me. It was about what you see when you see this face. Having someone in the elevator at Shell, we're in the same building as Baker Botts and several other companies, but going in the elevator in my suit to a meeting and having these young ladies get in and say, hey, what company you work for? And I say Shell, and they look me in the face and they go, I didn't know any black people work for Shell. That's a reflection that I went, whoa, that was a moment. And so when I think about my personal journey, Aaron, and where we are today, there are a lot of us that have gotten to the level of, I mean, I'm in management, if you will, in a major energy company, and most will say you've arrived. But I think that until we talk about the moments where that arrival could have been in jeopardy and still could be today, that we need to embrace the conversation as individuals before we try and attack the entire company. Which leads me to how I'll finish the question, is that part of my journey now is, yeah, I'm part of the leadership helping to develop and help our company implement a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. But I'm saying bite the elephant off in small pieces, and that is people have got to have candid conversations. I've got to go to my white colleagues and give them a chance to have a conversation with me, not give them a bunch of work to do to show that they appreciate me as a black male inside the company. I think we have to start with just an understanding of each other, because I think when we start to do that at the kind of the micro level, we'll get those advocates that will start addressing it on their teams and in their business units and across the company. And so for me, I think it's a pivotal time to not forget the power of a conversation. Yeah, the moment is here and we don't want to lose the moment, but I think we also don't want to get through the moment like I got through those moments that I reflected on, which is as long as we win one person, we're good. No, we need to have that person bring another person to the show. And let's make sure we have 3 people that understand, and then 5 people that understand. And part of it is doing this kind of work that NGLCC and others are doing, which is creating platforms by which those conversations can happen. And let me end with this. There are a lot of people that have a wonderful position, whether it's their own position, whether it's a position of hate or a position of love. Those two will not grow to understand each other until the individuals truly have a conversation, because hate came from something. It came from an experience. And until we can understand why that experience happened and help people to realize that that's something we can both address together, then I think we can merge those two and come out with the winning proposition, which is let's move together in solving the equity part of this equation.
I love what you just said. I mean, because the conversation, it starts with a spark, right? And sometimes as human beings, we want to avoid those uncomfortable situations that it's just who we are. I mean, it's easier to kind of avoid it as opposed to confront it. And I talk about, the fact that when you collide, when these things kind of collide, sometimes those collisions spark something that's innovative and creates a new way of thinking. It breaks up the patterns of bad behavior or of the blind spots to open up the door to something that was unique and beautiful and things that we didn't think about. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that was really, really important. Teresa, you talked about your family in their advocacy and in the civil rights effort. Help us in, we saw what the last administration did, which was kind of strip away or try to strip away some of the the laws protecting diversity and inclusion. Tell me how you're feeling about kind of where we are in history right now. Are you optimistic? Are you feeling like we're heading the right direction? Do we need to put rocket fuel behind it, or are we going at the pace that you thought we should be?
It's interesting. That whole last 4 years was just a lot of anger and just a lot of, I think, disbelief. And I don't remember a phone conversation I had with my father. It was like, I never thought my children would see what I lived through again in their lifetime. And I'm sitting here watching it unfold on television every day. And the only difference, and I think Will Smith said it, is that all of this got caught on tape. And we were still, and it was being filmed. And it was the saddest moment for me because he so much hurt in his voice and in his eyes. And that when we started going through the campaign and supporting the Biden campaign and doing a lot of things, I finally saw the hope come back in his eyes that something was going to change. And so I think for me, I believe for me, I'm hopeful because I do see the changes. I mean, on his first day signing executive orders about building in equity, and we have lots of things going before Congress and the House next week about social equality and all of those types of aspects. So for me, it's a hopeful time, but I don't want us to miss this moment in time that happened. And I don't want it to be a moment or the flavor of the month that starts happening. Because what we have a tendency to do is all Americans is to get comfortable. And I think we were comfortable in that the last 4 years, I think a lot of these individuals had the opportunity to speak that we have held silent for so long. And people have revealed themselves. And I hope that we pay attention to that reveal, but I also go back to Brian's, it's a time for that opportunity to have those conversations. But if you get to that point where you need to walk away, you need to have that courage to walk away because there's opportunity somewhere else as well. So I think for me, it's a hopeful time, but I think we're only going to be able to get through all of this together. And that's on the private sector, the public sector, as well as the diverse businesses, because we're going to have to remember all these moments that we've had this past year in order to propel us to get to the social equity, the social justice. And it's going to take a lot of us from a reform, and not just in the national government, but our local governments, how we're going to act, how we're going to get active and participate in being the change that we want to see. And so I think it's very powerful. It was, I think a year of reflection, but now I think it's the time of action. And so my question is, what are you going to do? I mean, we've all been on the sidelines for so long. And we've, even as supplier diversity professionals, we've been advocating and doing this, but now you can position yourself as the real solution for your organization. And if you aren't doing that, you're wasting this opportunity that came before us for some tragic, horrible things. But it's an opportunity for us to honor those memories and carry it forward and do something that's going to make a difference. So I'm hopeful, Erin, I'm hopeful. And optimistic, but I'm also, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that's how I say, because we all have to do our part. And part of that, when I always talk about internally about allyship, and it's about the speaking up, now is our time to speak up. So if we remain silent, then, this has all been lost. So that's how I'm feeling.
That's good. I can feel in your spirit. I believe you, and it does kind of in that, which is, a perfect, Tanya, we just heard about kind of allyship. What advice would you give to non-Black leaders in corporate America on how to be an effective ally, and then I got a follow-up question to that is, which advice would you give to Black-owned LGBT businesses in that process as well?
Okay, so I'll take the first question to non-Black leaders. So I'm going to say this: if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, don't. Okay, but quit being a jerk. All right. I mean, it really, really is as simple as that to me. Treat people who don't look like you would want your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your son, your daughter. Treat people who don't look like you how you would want those folks to be treated. It really is that simple. I think that, if you show up to actively listen as opposed to, this is in addition, actively listen and as opposed to coming with a preconceived idea. Um, and more to what I think Brian was saying earlier, have an open heart, have an open mind. But again, I'm still going to fall back to that because it's a simple thing. If you treat people who don't look like you, like those that you love and adore and would die for and would do anything for, isn't that simple? It's really just that simple.
I love that. I often tell clients when we're talking about, LGBTQ plus, and when we're talking about investing in those businesses or in those segments, it's not just about getting those consumers. It's also about the allies. It's also about my mom who's watching how, a brand or a company is treating her son, and she's going to either support that brand or not. So I love what you're saying about thinking about, how would you want this company? And, we have like internal customers as well as external customers, right? So
Yes.
that a lot of companies now are taking on that role where they are looking at the staff, the employees, the partners within their organization. They've got to start understanding that that is a reflection of the people that they want outside too, right? So there is a lot of I think recalibrating how we're thinking about how we support these diverse groups within the organization.
Hey, Aaron.
What?
Yeah.
Aaron, may I just offer a comment on the question you asked Tanya as well? Do you mind?
Absolutely. No, go. I want this to be free.
For sure. Yeah, because that's a great question. I think a couple points I'll make. One is that I believe it's a question that is valid for all of us, first of all, because I believe in friends that I have that happen to be Black. They're in a standoff, and you may find those that aren't Black are in their own standoff, right? And some of it is, in my opinion, as I've looked over this last year, is built on the fear of having to give up something to treat someone equal. If I'm going to treat you equal, that means I'm either going to put myself at a risk of getting less, or someone I know and love at a risk. And some, Tanya, I feel you when you say stop being a jerk. There is a group of folks that won't walk off of that or step off of that position, and they use words like, well, they didn't earn it, or you didn't earn it, or there's no one that can do that, or they won't. And I go, you can't paint a population with that brush, right? So one is getting over the fear of you're going to give up something if in order to treat someone equal. And to me, the candid conversations, Teresa, I love what you said earlier around, yeah, you can talk to a wall and for a couple days, and that wall ain't gonna do nothing but sit there as a wall. I believe there's enough people in our companies, in our networks, in our teams that are really yearning for a conversation. They just don't want to be judged by the conversation. So I think whether you're on either side, if there is just only two sides, which we all know there's more than two sides, it's just how do you get over the fear of losing something by showing me equality, right? And then the last thing I'll share from a supplier diversity standpoint, and for the suppliers out there, is that there continues to be more and more diverse owned businesses started up every year, because some of them are leaving companies like mine today and they're going out in the entrepreneurship world. Well, there's not room in every supply chain for everyone that wants to be in the supply chain. But what I'll say to those entrepreneurs sitting out there now who are LGBT, Black, and any other space is that how do you put yourself in a winning proposition with the company or the supply chain that you're after? Because what I'm preaching inside Shell is don't go do business with diverse suppliers because I've helped you come up with a target spend number. Do business with them because you can see them helping you win. That diversity is going to help you win, because most companies today now after 2020 are trying to figure out what's our next level of winning in our business, in our industry, in our space. So I think we have to quickly, Teresa, get a fire under us as entrepreneurs, as LGBT, as any, and say, what is it going to take for me to help them win, and leap over the line of people that are already in front of you. Leap over them because you're coming with where we're headed, not where we are. And to me, I think this is the time for Black LGBT owned businesses to take that leadership role. Don't wait for someone to give you anything. Go, how do I get in the front of the line? Well, think about what it takes to win, and then build your value proposition around that and be bold. And that's what I'm learning. I'm on a journey still. My journey is still happening even on this call. And it's about being bolder, being bolder. That's the time.
So I think you're exactly right, Brian, because one of the things, a year before all of this transpired, we were starting a program, the Entrepreneur Access Network for Black and Latinx businesses. We had got the program, we were going to launch it in like one city as a pilot. Fast forward, all of this happened this past year, and now it's in 10 plus city areas where we're looking at Black and Latinx businesses. And I like what you said. It's not about taking away, it's about bringing them up, leveling, providing equity to access to ecosystem, to capital. So we've got 138 businesses in this cohort that's launched in January of Black and Latinx businesses that have been assigned an EY liaison that's essentially, they're going to be a client of EY. So they're going to get access to our supply chain, to our clients, to all of our specific thought leadership collateral for entrepreneurs, and then get them ready to go pitch in front of investors, right, and create, their value statements. And I sat back, I said, so many other companies have already done this because they've had the opportunity and the access. And what we're providing is the equity to give them what they should have already had. And now they can go level, like you said, Brian, create that next solution, that next step for us. And so I think for me is we've got to be the change, and there's some responsibility on us. And to look at it, I think in your words, it's not taking away, it's providing what so many have had that they didn't have access to. And now we're saying we're going to give it to everybody so that everybody can be on that same field and then go get on the field and play. And and whoever has the best solution is going to win. So I think it's important for us also during this time is to create those programs. But what I would say to my Black LGBTQ suppliers is you have to get in the game as well. So you have to put yourself out there. There's a lot of different programs. The three companies on this conference call or video sponsor to help you, but you've got to take part in it. And what so many times I hear is the fear. We do a pitch competition, Aaron, and so many people don't sign up or show. And I'm like, this is an opportunity for you to show your company in a safe space to talk about and to elevate your brand. So I think part of it is we're here for all companies. And so we want you to be a part of that. And so you've got to step up and be a part of that too, because we're creating. There's a lot of things out there. We just need you to take an active part too, because we're looking at taking more active roles. Our companies are giving us the opportunity to take more active roles during this time.
Well, I think you bring up a good, both of you talked about, the fear of some feeling like they're going to lose something. I think part of what the narrative needs to be is it's not about making the pie smaller, it's about actually making the pie bigger. And the bigger we make the pie, the more slices everyone's going to be able to have, right? And so I guess that kind of leads me to another question. Maybe, Tanya, you can answer this a little bit, but have we as an industry in, diversity, equity, and inclusion, historically, have we perhaps been selling the idea of this wrong, right? So oftentimes people and corporations look at it as like, okay, I have to check the box for, Black women, disabled, you name the list. And perhaps we, and maybe you agree or disagree, but so I'm going to throw this out as a question. Should we have been talking about the benefits more about diversity, equity, inclusion, the benefits of having more voices in terms of what that does internally to the culture, but also what it does externally in terms of the profitability and the success. Things are changing a little bit, and I feel like they're changing. I'm wondering if you're feeling the same.
I think so. Just recent conversations I've had the last few weeks. I think we really have to all start talking about more, and I'm going to just use this phrase, but it means a bigger thing than economic impact, right? We hear it, and it means many different things to different folks. But when I think about it in its simplest terms, right, we have to start as organizations, as enterprises, truly caring about the communities where we have our brick and mortar. Now, that's another conversation around brick and mortar, what's happening with that, right? But we have to start caring about whether it's this person that has this job, is it a living wage job, right? Can this person actually support they have this job, but can they actually support their family with this job? Can they actually buy, healthy foods for their family with this job? Can they actually do they have health care, right? And so I think it's a bigger, diversity is a bigger picture now. And we have a bigger responsibility than just getting that supplier in the room or quite frankly, them just winning the contract. We have to begin to ask ourselves, what's the next step and how is it more than just the dollar value, or to your point, Aaron, earlier, the box that we're checking whatever category they're in, right? It has to be bigger than that. I think one of the many, many things that this pandemic has taught us is that we're smarter than we realize. We're more resilient than we realized. And so let's be, we've all used the term be bold in many different for many different ways during this conversation, but let's be more bold, right? Because we're all still sitting here, right? And there's something to be said for that. I'll pause there. I see Brian and Teresa shaking their head.
You go, Teresa, if you got some, because I got a couple of things to add to that. You didn't unleash something here, Tanya.
It's the time. It's the time to take it. Right. It's your time. Whatever you can go in and ask for it and take it. This is the time. Whether you're a supplier diversity professional or a diverse-owned business, Black-owned business, it's your time. And if you don't seize this moment, you have wasted an opportunity.
So, Teresa, seizing a moment. Oh, sorry, Aaron. Go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead, Brian. Oh, Aaron, go ahead.
See, you sparked all this energy.
You got me all.
Right. No, it's. I think you're absolutely right. But we've got these viewers who are watching, who are passionate. They've got incredible, ideas. They've got incredible businesses. How do they take that time? Like, what is the thing if you were to give them, the top 3, top 2 pieces of advice? What would you tell these businesses? Because I would imagine everyone who's watching is passionate about getting in the door. They're passionate about selling their service, whatever that might be. They just need that. They need that opportunity. How do they do it? What's the best thing that they can do?
I'm gonna go first, Teresa.
Go ahead. I saw him getting ready, and I was like, he wound up. I'm gonna let him take it. I'm
gonna try not to do the whole, the keep us in church all Sunday, so kind of sermon, but it ties to what Tanya said. I mean, you talk about a salary. Can someone live off of that? It's not can you live off of that. It's can you put money away so that you can grow off of that. Well, the same thing with an entrepreneur. And I may get in trouble with this. We tend to look for diverse-owned businesses that can come in and compete against the contract that we've had in place for 10, 15 years and do it cheaper. That's not giving an entrepreneur a chance to grow their business. It's having them come in perhaps even as a loss leader. And that's not what our brand stands for. And so I'm being bold by making sure that my businesses understand the value of the diverse community. It's not let's go do business with them because 2020 happened. No, 2020 was a visual of what's been happening for a long time. And so we got to create wealth. We got to go at this as we are here to create wealth in communities that have been long since left behind. Now, don't get me wrong, to the entrepreneurs listening, it don't mean we giving you anything. It means you need to come strong, and you don't need to go to every company with the same expectation either. You need to find your fit in wherever it is where you can cause the biggest impact, not where someone's buying. So I call this don't stand in line. There are too many people standing in line looking over here going, there must be something good up there because I'm standing in this long line. Create your own line. In the energy sector alone, our ability to transform to a carbon neutral business by 2050 will, or sooner, will require new things, not some of the same old stuff. So if you're an entrepreneur out there trying to sell us what we've been buying for the last 25 years, and you're saying, well, I'm a Black LGBT owned business and I saw you, so that means you want to do business with me. Well, not so fast. It's what do you do? What do you offer? What can I help you gain a knowledge, a wealth of knowledge in the next 6 months or a year so that you build the best opportunity in front. And then finally, solving big problems. The world of entrepreneurship has always been about solving problems, not getting contracts. And you asked, have we been selling it wrong? I'm not mad at anyone that came before me or any of my peers out there, including the two wonderful ones on this panel. Is that diversity is happening around us and we nothing we can do about it. It's just continuing to happen. So if our diversity programs is about bringing more diversity in, then we still are going to sell the wrong thing and they're going to be frustrated people. What we got to say is the door is open because you're diverse. What you got to do is come in here and find out if you can do what it takes to stay in that room long enough for someone to say, you now, Teresa, you said it earlier, I'll end it here. This equity part is not simply about just getting in the room. It's not simply about being on the agenda. It's about creating the agenda. So entrepreneurs, if you're not coming to the shells of the world, and we're only one energy company out of many, and saying, here's what I want to create in order to help you win the way you've said you want to win publicly, because we have, you got more rooms that you can go into than you have time or Zoom bandwidth. So let's change the conversation so that we change the rooms that we go in, and then lean on us as your best advocates to help you to be ready once you get in that room. And to me, solving problems, and it's all about a company. Companies have to realize diversity is about creating wealth in communities that have long since been left out of the game. And that's real conversations. That's candid conversations.
That's awesome. Create your own lane. I love that.
Oh,
you look like you were going to say something as we kind of got into this. I want to give you an opportunity before, I can't believe we're almost out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to jump in.
No, I'm just reflecting on, I like the create your own agenda because right now we're in a transformation, right? Digital transformation, our whole world has been transformed in the last year. So what we're looking for is that next big thing. And all these amazing entrepreneurs that we have that can come bring us that next big thing, and we can take it to our clients internally and really work to build that wealth that Brian's talking about in the communities where we need to do it. And I think for me at EY, we have built this platform now about building wealth, creating wealth, and creating knowledge so that we can create the future wealth within our own profession, but also in a lot of different aspects of how we see that with our digital divide. So I think we've taken that kind of, I think, solutions into different ways. We're looking beyond the diversity, equity, and inclusion, but how are we going to be an organization that where we work, we're creating those wealth in those communities where we live and work, but also understanding that we need entrepreneurs to help us build that wealth where we are. And so I think Brian's right, the door is open. We're ready for you to set the agenda so that you can show us where we need to go and we can help you get where you need to go.
That's awesome. And Tanya, I want to give you a chance to answer that same question. I mean, you've got this incredible audience who, you know, are smart, smart LGBTQ professionals. Tell us what advice you would share with them on how they could, not just with Kaiser, but just in general, how they could kind of take what they have to get in the door.
I think I'm really just going to double down on what my two colleagues have said. And we can't say it enough: be bold, be innovative, and all these things. You know, be the agenda. But I'll just close with this: when we think about, you know, healthcare, and that's why I'm really going to go with the be bold and be innovative. Never, ever, ever have we thought, and I'll even say Kaiser, that folks could practice medicine without the person coming into the hospital, right? Look at telehealth and all the apps and those type of things. I mean, we're talking now, right? So you're having your doctor's visit this way, right? You don't even have to step foot into that hospital. So it's just a dog pile on what Brian and Teresa said. Be bold, be innovative. You know, the world is yours. If nothing else, this is where every group be all you can be.
Be all you can be. All right, closing thoughts. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. We're going to wrap it up. Teresa Harrison, Brian B.K. Hall, Tanya Nixon, you guys are the best panelists. Your passion, your commitment to what we are doing, what we stand for is felt through the screen. I can feel it coming through. So thank you for that. But I want to give you a second to have any closing thoughts. Let's Tanya, you're up. So why don't we...
Sure. I will share with folks just my sort of a personal mantra that I've adopted just with all that's happened. I will say in 2020, my motivation was to survive, and done that. In 2021 and beyond, I am going to thrive. So please, please, please thrive. Let's go. Thank you so much for this. This has been awesome.
I love that. Miss Teresa.
Well, Tanya took my comment around thrive. So now I'm sitting here, what am I going to say? But no, I think for me, I'm ready to go to work. So let's go to work together to make a difference, not only here at EY, but where we can always take that across the globe. So it's time for us to team and do this together to make a difference in our own communities, but more make a difference for ourselves to show that we're at the table and we're making our own agenda.
Love it. BK Hall.
Well, I have to say thank you to Team NGLCC, because it was probably little less than 2 years ago that I got a chance to stand up in front of the mentorship group and share something that I hadn't been able to share before. So I say that because of that, my personal commitment is to, one, be more confident in myself and my skills, and know that that I was given this for a reason, not to apologize to anyone for it, but to go out and really give those that just need a nudge or just need someone to listen, so that they can have their own realizational moment where they go, damn, I'm good. This is who I am, and this is what makes me good. So don't apologize, just find the best places to go put it. And so to me, in my company, leading the effort for not only the ability to recognize the value of diversity, but then use it to win. There's nothing wrong with using it to win. And I think you have to do that by, one, knowing what you bring to the table. So yeah, I'm inspired, I'm thriving, but I'm also saying I'm willing to continue to grow. And to do that, I have to put myself in situations where it might be a little scary, but when you
Right.
look at the family you got, you go, boy, we got this. We got this. Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, here's the summary of everything that I think you guys, not guys, everyone has said. Sorry. Be bold, thrive. We're going to do this together, and we got to create our own agenda. And when I think about what NGLCC stands for, coming together as a community, when I think about the opportunities that they have presented, in part, not just to help us grow our businesses, but to help us connect and help each other grow our businesses, because when we all grow, it works for everyone. So I just want to say to NGLCC, thank you for providing this platform, for giving me an opportunity to talk to some fabulous people, and to giving the viewers an opportunity to learn from these incredible executives. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. They are absolutely amazing, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of good knowledge out of it.
Hello, my name is Genesis Fisher. I'm an attorney, a law professor, and most importantly, a mediator. I'm the founder of Fisher Law Practice. We help businesses create healthier workplaces by addressing office tension and providing leadership support. Through mediation, facilitated dialogues, executive coaching, and small group learning, we help people voice their concerns, learn from one another, and repair trust. You can visit us at fisherlawpractice.nyc. I'm proud to be an NGLCC certified business. I remember my first event. Coming from a legal background, it was surprising and maybe even foreign to look around and see resting, happy faces. What's that about? This is a real community that believes in collective support, visibility, and honestly fun. Isn't that great? I'm proud to be a part of NGLCC and look forward to the future we create together. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Ralph Weaver, the founder and CEO of East-West Connection. Please use the pronoun he, him, his when referring to me. East-West Connection is a full-service meetings, events, and sales incentive company located in central New Jersey. For over 30 years, we've created memorable experiences for Fortune 500 companies, emerging companies, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations. We are known for our innovation, our creativity, whether it's a virtual meeting or live engagement for 10 people or several thousand. We were certified over 2 years ago, and since that time, we have participated in programs, networking sessions, as well as other initiatives sponsored by the organization. And if you'd like more information about East-West Connection, please visit us on social media, or you can always contact me at rweaver@eastwestconnection.com. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Felicia McCoy, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. The name of my business is BG Promotions, Inc. I am a digital brand marketing influencer. I help businesses either build or maintain their digital marketing platforms. I am proud to be a Black-owned certified LGBT Black enterprise, and the benefits are exceptional. I have already connected with other members in the organization. I have met other corporate vendors through the opportunity of webinars, even through this pandemic, where they teach us and give us information that I have never known. So I tell everyone, come on and join and be a Black-owned certified LGBT business enterprise. And remember, through me, they see you. God bless.
Thank you all for joining us. We hope that this conversation has inspired you the way it has inspired us. Please be sure to join us for our networking happy hour with tea. If we were unable to get to your question today, or if you'd like to learn more about the Coachee team, please feel free to reach out to us at coachee@nglcc.org. And if you have not already, please consider filling out our Coachee team member info sheet so that you can be included in our communications about Coachee events and opportunities. Thank you again, and have a great day.